Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Principal Podcast, a place where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your own practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Degnan. Join me as we talk with the best consultants in their niche. And we definitely have one today, Joe Mathews, one of the most experienced franchise growth consultants in the industry, with more than 40 years in franchise development, sales, and lead generation. As founder of Franchise Performance Group, he has helped over 150 franchise brands scale through outsourced franchise recruitment, lead generation, and strategic growth systems. In this episode, Joe shares what professional service leaders can learn from franchise growth, building trusted scale, improving client acquisition, creating long-term relationships, and developing systems that support sustainable expansion. Joe, welcome.
Oh, thank you, John. I appreciate that. I hope I live up to the hype.
I'm sorry?
I hope I live up to the hype.
Well, let's see what you got. You left college and you went to Subway to start your career. Tell us about that.
Well, I in college, John, as we just found out, you and I are basically we were born in the same hospital, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I'm New Haven, Connecticut, and in college, I was actually a fine arts major, but I was a crap artist. So I hurry up, got my marketing degree because that's all I could afford from the University of Connecticut. And I kind of skipped over to a company I heard, it was a local sandwich chain that wanted to grow big, and it just happened to be Subway. So I got into Subway very early, so I was there when they were only in about 17 states and they had just opened their 400th unit. And I was there 3 years later, we built it to 3,000. It was a real hockey stick, meteoric rise. And that was my first experience in franchising, and what was interesting going to marketing for a second is I realized people didn't want the franchise. What they really wanted was their lives and their careers to look better, right? And that they had their career ladder leaning against the wrong wall, or their investments weren't panning out, or that they were treading water through another investment opportunity, looking for growth, whatever the reasons. But they wanted the outcome, right? They didn't want the franchise. And I was thinking it was almost like answering prayer, right? And at 21 years old, I realized, what better product is there to market somebody's aspirations back to them as a reality if we did business together? And I surmised at 21, I was never going to find another product like that. And I decided that's all I was ever going to do. And now we fast forward 40 years, really 41 years, and it's all I've ever done.
So you went from Subway to where?
I moved around a couple different brands. So I was with Subway. I also was with their competitor, Blimpie.
Okay.
My longest career was with a 1 hour photo processing back, children, when there was a thing called silver halide film, right? There was a photo processing, this chain called Moto Photo that just got decimated with digital imaging. I was there for 7 years. I was we built a franchise consulting firm for another gentleman, a sole proprietor, called the Entrepreneur Source, which was kind of a match, kind of derivative of a business broker. They help people find franchise opportunities that were a fit. And then I started my company 23 years ago to work. Yeah, but what had happened, John, in franchising, it's really interesting. Even though there's 9,000 franchise brands, even though there's almost $1 trillion worth of aggregated output that franchise brands, franchising, so the community of brands called franchising, has not done for the franchisor or the brand, which the brand does for the franchisee. There's no franchisor model. Like if you go to Subway, you're getting a model, right? You got the branding, you got the product, you got marketing strategy, operations, tech stack. It's all there, right?
Right.
When you become a franchisor, you got nothing because there's no franchisor model. There's still no franchisor model. So all of us that are my age that got into franchising. We got into it by accident. It wasn't a career choice. We just happened into it, fell in love with it, stayed in it, and then we invented it as we went, right? So I started the company 23 years ago because my niche was franchise growth. How do you recruit more and better and more qualified franchisees to grow the brand? Because that's how franchisors grow. So I didn't want to create a system based on most guys were doing, they try to parlay 2 or 3 different brands and say they were an experts in franchise growth. My expertise, I wanted to work with 300 brands. I wanted to, work in 80 different industries, not one, right? So, you fast forward 40 years, I didn't achieve my growth objective of working with 300 brands, but we worked with 150, and I did touch 80 different industries. Every industry in franchising we've done work in except hotels, which is kind of its own thing. Yeah.
So what stimulated you to become a consultant?
I kind of had an accidental career, John. There was nobody to teach me franchising because the franchisor model didn't exist. I was always kind of a self-styled learner anyway, so I left really to create my own franchise recruitment and lead generation system, hammered out over a number of different brands. So it was really a think tank for myself to keep me entertained and then pay the bills at the same time. And the market just embraced what we did, and it just started growing, and it got past to me kind of pretty quickly. My goal was to do, if I could do $350,000 worth of revenues, wow, that was really something, as a sole proprietor. And a good year for us is we operate between 1.5 million and $2 million worth of revenue. So it got big, and then I had to build teams and processes and systems and structures and training systems, et cetera, and so on for internal staff. So it kind of got to that. But ideally, it was really designed to just be me helping 1 or 2 brands at any point in time, and it just grew through there.
Got you. And you wrote a best-selling book, Street Smart Franchising. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was one of the things that kind of put me in the map. I didn't, at the time, there's about a 1 to 2 million people a year look into franchising as part of their search for self-employment. And I really didn't think there was really books out there or good educational resources to walk somebody through what it is to start a business, especially deal with the reasons they don't, right? It's almost every book started with, if you're reading this book, you're going to start a business, so here's how you do it. But if you've been on my side of the screen or the phone, you get 100 inquiries and 1 doesn't. So 99 don't.
Right.
And not that they wouldn't be successful. There's a lot of head trash associated with self-employment, right? Every year, either the Department of Labor or at one time USA Today do a poll, how many people want to start a business? It's always around 75% have the idea of being self-employed someday, but only 11% of professionals are self-employed, including side hustles, right? So people have high intentions and then low execution. I always say self-employment is the largest spectator sport in the world, right? Or at least in the United States, bigger than any other sport. So I wanted to write a book for people that could be successful if they took on their own head trash and self-limiting beliefs because they weren't thinking about it right. And that actually, that book probably put us on the map. It hit fast, it hit hard, because it dealt with conversations. It was kind of the book 20-year franchising professionals would all had in the back of their head, all would have liked to have written it, and the book kind of gave them voice, and they propelled it through and pushed it through guerrilla marketing, and it became one of the top 2-3 titles in franchising for about 10 years.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Congratulations on that. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, I have a new book out now because it's responsible franchising. Wiley put it out. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Responsible Franchising. As money started pouring in, so did from private equity, sort of situational ethics. So I wanted to do a book on franchising ethics on top of best practices. So we phased out street smart franchising and phased in the ultimate guide to responsible franchising.
Okay. What specific problem are you helping franchise brands solve today? And why does solving that problem matter so much to you personally?
Oh, that's a great question. We solve one problem, right? We're a one-trick pony here at Franchise Performance Group. We help solid entrepreneurs and respectable brands find each other, right? So that's the problem we solve in the marketplace. Why is that important? If I could digress for 1 second, franchising and the adoption process for children kind of have a lot in common. My brother adopted 3 kids from Russia. And one of the things he told me, he goes, there's a special place in hell for all the people who try to help you throughout the adoption process because it's so corrupt and so disingenuous. And everybody's got their hand out. I don't think franchising's that corrupt and that disingenuous, but there's a lot of bad players. Show me something worthy of doing almost, and I'm going to show you people who are ready to exploit that, right? So why that's important to me is because I think franchising as a rule, unfortunately, takes a franchisor first approach to helping people invest in franchise. It's all about the franchisor, all about the brand, and the franchisee is kind of an afterthought. I take a kind of an entrepreneur first approach. Like I would say the franchisor exists to produce solid returns and help the franchisee meet their personal and financial objectives. Sole purpose for existing. And the franchisee exists, okay, to execute the brand on the unit level. Right? So I think if you're a franchisor, I would say you're in the business of recruiting, training, directing, resourcing, and leading a team of entrepreneurs to build a brand. That's the business you're in. You're not the consumer-facing model. You could be if you own units, but when you're a franchisor, that's the business you're in, and then the franchisee is in the business of the consumer-facing model.
Okay. You mentioned responsible entrepreneurs. Who's your ideal client?
Our ideal client, the business model's got to be worthy of being replicated, right? So for me, that means it's got to be profitable. Like it's got to have good, solid unit level economics. It's got to be defensible. So copycat concepts, I've been around here long enough, John, to watch. If a brand can be copied, it's making money, it will get copied, okay? And then it'll turn into a price war. Because you don't have anything really defensible or unique in the marketplace. So I put a high dividend on unique and defensible. I want proven. So don't show me something that's hot and new. Show me something that's minimum 7 to 10 years old that has gone through all the market cycles, right? Because then you have proof of concept. And I want to see replicable. Like I want the brand to have replicated itself on its own nickel before it starts taking in outside money, which is high risk money to the franchisee. So the franchisee should be proving the franchisor's replicability on the franchisee's money, right? Yeah, because I think that's an inherent part of the value of investing in a franchise. It should be replicable. The only way it's been replicable, it's because it's been replicated, right? And it sounds so logical, but throw logic out the window sometimes, when you're dealing with franchising. And then for me, sustainable for the long haul, right? So show me something that's not going to get phased out or is trendy, right? That isn't going to produce. I like long-term wealth. I like multi-generational wealth if it could be created. So for example, let's take Subway. Subway didn't invent meat between 2 slices of bread, right? Arguably, the Duke of Sandwich or Earl of Sandwich did in the 1500s when he was gambling, right? So, but what they did is they got the mover shaker position in the marketplace, and they were the first ones to brand it across the United States, right? So they had a solid foothold way out in front of number 2. and, created a lot of wealth for a lot of people that way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You built Franchise Performance Group into one of the most recognizable firms in franchise recruitment. What marketing approaches have consistently worked best for you in attracting the right clients?
Well, John, here's where I'll embarrassingly say we're a lead generation company that doesn't do lead generation for Franchise Performance Group. We started one of the things I think we did right and well is we're a values driven company, right? So we knew there were thousands of brands and we were going to work with 20 at a time, maybe 15 at a time. So most of the market, we would 0.001% market share, whatever that works out to. We'd have a thriving business. So before there was even social media, we published all our intellectual property and our techniques, and we taught classes and franchising best practices. And through that teaching and that giving, into the marketplace, we developed relationships. Those relationships and developed a reputation. Franchising happens to be I'm going to call franchising an industry, even though there's 80 different industries in franchising. If you're a franchisor, it's kind of a business or an industry unto itself, and we all know each other. So it's a business where if you touch enough people and build your reputation, referral network first. That's how people find people like me and still do. You're not going to get the best clients through digital marketing or storytelling or lead nurturing content, websites. You'll get some, but the best clients are going to come through referral and reputation. And we've been able to sustain our reputation over 20 years.
What do you think about podcasts as marketing tool for consultants?
I think it's an excellent idea. Yes, I do think, like any content, it's got to be worthy of being heard, right? So I think as long as it's good content and there's real takeaway value, I'm all about sharing intellectual property and trade secrets on more than just a superficial and cursory level. Give somebody real information that they can execute. Okay, even if they never hired you, that they can execute it and make a ton of money. Like one of our staunch supporters in franchising was the CEO of Tropical Smoothie, right? Never paid me a dime, but he read all of our stuff, implemented a lot of things, talk to him all the time about best practice. Brilliant executive. And if we had anything to do with the success of that brand, I'm really happy about that. I would have been maybe a little happier if we could make a little money off it. We didn't, but that's okay. That they've got a thriving franchisee community. They produced multi-generational wealth for the franchisees, and the CEO is a staunch supporter of our brand. What more could you ask for?
Absolutely.
Best marketing there is.
You've worked with many franchise brands for years. How to retain clients long term, make sure they continue seeing value from the relationship over time?
Can you ask me that question, John? Again, John?
Sure. You've worked with so many franchise brands, so many over the years. How do you retain clients long term?
That's a great question. A typical FPG client's probably 3 to 7 years. Lead generation's funny. One of the dysfunctional natures of our business, if a client just uses us for content lead generation, website design, that sort of thing, the deliverable is lead flow. Okay, but we're held accountable for deal flow. Like the recruiter, whoever's working the leads doesn't matter. We're held accountable, for his output, right? Whether he's skilled or unskilled. So what we understand that, and we have a good system to fill even a marginal recruiter's pipeline with marketing qualified entrepreneurs that are a good fit for the brand, right? So start by doing good work. Where there's turnover sometimes is we make it look easier than it is. Our playbooks are really good and we follow them well. Once you kind of get into year 3, sometimes other marketing agencies will try to bid on our work, or they'll undercut, or they'll give away or discount the services we do so they can get the consumer budget, right? Which is where they're going to make all their money. So we're susceptible to that, but no fault of our own. But as long as you do good work and and we happen to be domain area experts. I would say nobody knows franchise development lead generation better than us, because we didn't come into it as a marketing agency. We come into it as somebody who works leads for a living, right? Right. Everybody else, or almost everybody else in the space, they might have been doing it 20 years. They've never worked a lead in their life. They've never recruited a franchisee. We've recruited thousands. So we know what a deal looks like. We sat in the chair of the guy who hired us, yeah, right, to do for that deliverable. So we know that work, and that's been really helpful. They can't get that level of experience elsewhere. Well, then working with 150 different brands, the applied learning was substantial, over 20 something years. So we bring a lot to the table as domain area experts that they will have a lot of difficulty trying to replace downstream.
After decades in franchising and consulting, do you ever find yourself stuck as a consultant when the obstacles or challenges today?
John, I did get stuck, and it was probably year like 5, 6, 7 in the business. I was kind of a franchising generalist, and I didn't want to get pigeonholed just doing recruitment work, the lead generation, content design, brand storytelling for the franchise opportunity and recruiting, right? And I was so about 50% of my work was working with operations teams and helping franchisees become more profitable. I would say I wasn't a domain area expert in that, but I was pretty good at that work. We were good at that. We had good IP. But the moment I decided that I'm just going to stick my flag in the ground and we're going to work just in franchise development, that's going to be our area expertise, the business took off. I mean, the revenue almost doubled overnight. So for me, the specialization kind of breathed new life kind of into the business. And then the only other rut, rut is probably not the right word, but I'm 62 years old. Right? So there's a point in your career, you're like, I like to be active. I played pickleball and I was an avid tennis player. And like I had a life outside of work, right? And I've never worked past 6 o'clock, whatever time zone I'm in. So I have room for doing outside activities, stuff I like to do. At 62, it's a choice, right? I could put in the 45, 50-hour weeks, or I could cut it back and do some exercise outside activities. I couldn't do it both anymore, right? So it's, we brought in our first CEO, and he's doing a phenomenal job, and I've ratcheted back my hours and even changed my title. We've chief strategy officer. So I am not CEO. I don't make any of those decisions. I just support the CEO now as an internal consultant to the business, and some client facing as far as laying out the strategy and for messaging and for tools and for recruitment. I do not run the business day to day. I just don't have it anymore. From an energy standpoint.
You've earned the right to be where you are today.
That's I'm at that legacy part of my career, right, where you kind of you're playing the back nine, and I hope people think that and believe that, and I hope that's true.
Looking ahead, where do you see the biggest opportunity for franchise development and franchise consulting over the next few years?
John, that's a great question. Franchising represents about 50% of the private sector revenue, right? If in retail, which would include food, right? 50% flow through is a franchise brand, and there's 9,000 brands. There's only about 15,000 new franchise starts, and then the rest are existing franchisees expanding within their own brands, right? So small. Do you know how many people start a business like last year? 5 million new business starts.
Wow.
And about 30,000 were franchising. Okay. And out of 30,000, half were just people that are already in a system, just expanding on their success. So franchising doesn't really, it doesn't have 1% of the market share of new business startups. So where I really see franchising is listening to the market. I don't see a lot of franchise opportunities that people can get into low entry cost. I don't see a lot of franchise people can get into at a part-time basis and work towards full-time, right? There's no good side hustles, very few good side hustles in franchising. I should say very few, no. So I would like to see franchising listen to the marketplace more and develop around marketplace needs instead of just, if you think about franchising, John, we don't invent anything, right? So show me a franchise. I'm going to show you a better, faster, cheaper model, or some version of that. I'm not going to show you an innovator, right? We don't invent anything. And that shows up in how we take concepts to market, right? So we're world-class copycats, not original thinkers, right? So we don't listen to the market like an original person. We did what the other guy did, and then we try to improve on it. And then eventually, that's just being a lemming. That's being a good lemming, but you're still a lemming, right? I'd like to see more innovation, more forward thinking, more listening to the entrepreneurial marketplace, and people coming up and delivering offerings like that are consistent with the needs of the 5 million people, not the 15,000 people who buy.
Gotcha. Well, Joe, this is a great conversation. If people want to find out more about you and see what you do, learn about you, where should they go?
Our website is very robust. So franchiseperformancegroup.com. We have a lot of good articles and videos and instructional work on there that people can not only learn about us, they could see how we do it.
Okay. We'll put all the links in the description. Thank you so much for coming on the Principal Podcast. We appreciate all your insights.
And if somebody wants to investigate, know how the best way to investigate a business, I would say I hate hawking books, but the ultimate guide, The Responsible Franchising by Wiley, you can pick that up on Amazon, either through audio or through hardcover.
Okay, perfect. Joe, thanks again. We appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite, John.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you learned valuable strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.